want to have a little bit of fun and take stock at this point on Ron DeSantis' campaign. Now, I know many of you might be thinking, it's way too early to be talking about whether campaigns are over, but no, that's the reason we need to talk about it. Is it actually too early? So we're gonna weigh the evidence here, and then we're each gonna vote. And if there's a tie, then Twitch can deal with it. I think producer Mike is putting a poll up on Twitch right now. So Brett, I know that you probably have a gut feeling. I don't know yet if you agree or disagree. I'm gonna jump into some of the evidence. Feel free to weigh in, but keep your final judgment until the close. We're gonna start with the prosecution, the case being made that he is done. Here's the evidence that I was able to put together at this point. So he launched his campaign on March 24th, and I realize it's probably difficult to see, but March 24th is like kind of right in the middle of the high point for that green line. This is all of the polls basically put together. And it is not a good sign for a candidacy when months in, you have kind of only lost ground over time when you needed to gain a lot of ground from the very beginning. And as of right now, like in the big new New York Times poll that came out this week, Trump is at 54, DeSantis is at 17. And that may sound bad to you, but you should know historically how bad it is. In the half century of modern presidential primaries, no candidate who led his or her nearest rival by at least 20 points at this stage has ever lost a party nomination. So Donald Trump has almost twice as much support as it would take for nobody to really historically have had a chance to beat you. So that is an overwhelming advantage. In addition to that, you have sort of what he can do to turn it around. So obviously it's going well, but why isn't it going well? It's not going well for a couple of reasons. Piece of evidence number 2, he's terrible at retail politics. He's terrible at going out and giving the speeches. He's terrible at connecting people. He did this event where he tried to get $50 to be able to drink beer with him. You know, that stereotypical thing like, here's a guy I could drink beer with. People didn't want to sign up for $50. So they lowered it to $1. Not even bucks at this point, $1. And like 30 people showed up. That's it. For $1 for a guy who in a year is supposed to be president. Okay, you seem to enjoy that.
I love it. A beer, I like beer. I like beer. Bowling ball Ron, I like beer. God, he's such a faker.
He is a doink. By the way, to give you an idea of how bad it is that you can only get 30 people to do that, you could just do that dollar thing to get the beer and not pay attention to Ron DeSantis and save yourself a bunch of money, and people still didn't want to do it.
It is less than the price of a beer, dude.
It's discount beer.
They're saying that it costs my brain, like if it's a restaurant, $6. It costs my brain $6 of anguish. So now the economics don't make sense anymore.
No. The question at this point is how much would they have had to pay people to drink a beer with him?
Yeah, he's bankrupt because people wouldn't drink beer with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, that may not be the reason he's bankrupt, but he is having problems. He's not meeting his fundraising goals. That's our sort of next piece of evidence. He's having to cut staff. They've fired 10 or 20 people or something like that. So that's not good, obviously. Now that could turn around easier than some of the other stuff, but I want to jump now to one of, I think, the strongest pieces of evidence that his campaign could be doomed. The prosecution puts forward that all of the tools, the weapons that hypothetically he had to take down Trump before the race had started, we were thinking about these things. How have they actually worked out for him? So like his ability to focus on anti-wokeness, is that helping him? Like when you poll people who's better placed to fight the woke, they say Trump. And when you ask them, do you want to prioritize fighting the woke? They don't, they want to focus on other things. So that doesn't seem like a particularly strong weapon. His ability to out-cruel Trump, which was actually my advice to him, was to try to do this. I guess I was wrong because when he attacks the LGBTQ community, he's getting criticized by Republicans for going too hard. He is not Trump, so he can be attacked for the things he does. Trump is immune to any of this. And in terms of electability, one of the strongest weapons he was supposed to have, they're not buying it. They think that Donald Trump would have a better chance against Biden, despite the fact that the polls don't necessarily bear that out, and Trump lost in 2020. And then finally, and I'll just close out the prosecution side with this, we're at this point And the debates haven't even happened yet. And they're probably not gonna go well for him if as far as we know about Donald Trump and what happens to Republicans who debate against him. And so, what do you think about the prosecution's case, Brett?
Well, John, you had me for a while. I, as the defense of Ron DeSantis, was about to rest my case. But then at the end, he had to say the D word, debates. Now,
okay,
one thing is any politics 101 student knows, debates always, unfailingly tighten the race. Just by virtue of sharing a stage with someone, you get closer in the polls. So that is one of the lifelines that Ron DeSantis has. Ron DeSantis has not stood on the same stage as Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump had not stood on the same stage as all these fellow competitors in the 2016 race. And as soon as he did, he overcame a huge level of adversity and a huge deficit in the polls. So he took the lead. And this is something that happens with Republicans. It's not that people trailing by that much in the polls never regain the senior position, the top poll position. Look back to the Herman Cain years. Herman Cain led the Republicans in the polls. You know, Tim Pawlenty, I'm sure, led the Republicans in the polls. Rick Santorum in the vest, one of them, Rick Santorum wearing the vest. They led in the polls by virtue of the debate. Everybody has a chance when they stand on the stage, especially given, I guarantee you Ramaswamy's gonna have a Rama grand swell in the poll.
Okay.
That's one lifeline that he has. The second lifeline that he has is all the indictments. It is very possible. This is my second bit of evidence. It is very possible that Donald Trump will get convicted of a crime. It is possible that Donald Trump will spend time behind bars. And if so, if Donald Trump does spend time behind bars, that's what DeSantis is waiting for, to be the decent, reasonable, normal pick, an alternative for the Republican Party. What say you?
I think, yes, I think that those are like strong possible outs. And look, I will say on the polling, I think, yes, the debates do tend to have that effect, but Donald Trump is also saying he's not going to be on the debate stage, which might nullify a little bit of the small chance that he could make Trump look like an idiot on the stage. But also, I don't think that in a primary they've ever tightened this much before. I mean, this is bigger. The lead he has is bigger than the lead Clinton had over Bernie or any of that stuff. On the indictments, I think that it's a possibility. There's a new poll that shows that about half of Republicans would not support Trump if he goes to prison, which is its own indictment of the Republican Party that's only that low. But that does imply that there's some room. But also, I think you make a good point about like Ramaswamy. Like it could help someone, but is it gonna hurt Trump? Like if Ramaswamy goes up, is that support coming from Trump or is that support coming from DeSantis? So.
Right. In all honesty, now that I've made my case and I have, taken myself out of the defense role and into the jury or judge.
Would you like to make your decision? Because this is a corrupt court where the prosecution, the defense, but then also the judges.
My gut says that because of the retail politics deficiency and the fact that his central argument is that he's really good at being the deep state, that's his differentiating factor. And the fact that he is just like playing this weird character when he's making all these culture war judgments, and the fact that he has a round head, and we've never had a round head president before, especially not one with a my buddy doll haircut, like who talks like that. He's a whiner. It is possible that Trump will not get the nomination due to these legal proceedings, making it impossible for him. But I don't then believe that Ron DeSantis is the backup player that they'll call in from the bullpen.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you're ruling dead.
I'm ruling dead. You?
Okay, I really was not sure where you would go because you seem to really like disagreeing with me. I will say that I believe that there is a 3% chance for him, which means that yes, I'm telling you there's a chance, but if you're Ron DeSantis, that is not good enough. I was already ready to rule that he was dead, but I conducted one final test. I had an expert on juice come in, and they tested Ron DeSantis, and he doesn't have that juice. He just doesn't have it. It's why it comes through in the retail thing. He does not do it. It's so easy to just attack like elementary school teachers in Florida, but that does not take down other Republicans. He doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have a chance. I rule dead.
I also rule dead. I would say that politics is also an expectations game, and you would expect he would have the juice, being from a state that is one of the leading citrus exporters in this country.
Exactly, and it could have been orange juice, which would have been so strong against Trump. Anyway, although we don't need the tiebreaker, let's see. Will the people join the majority or the dissent? Well, a bunch of you voted on Twitch, and 85% say that yes, it is time for Puddin' Ron to snack pack up his presidential bid. So that's strong. We don't have like a sentence or whatever. I think the sentence is to become a laughing stock in the Republican Party going forward and to have no chance even in 2028. But that remains to be seen. The court has spoken.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.